Day 556 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 3542, minimum operations to convert all elements to zero. The difficulty level is medium, but don't worry because you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. You are given an array nums of size n consisting of non-negative integers. Your task is to apply some possibly zero operations on the array so that all elements become zero. In one operation, you can select a subarray I and j where 0 is less than or equal to I, and I is less than or equal to j, and j is less than n, and set all occurrences of the minimum non-negative integer in that subarray to 0. Return the minimum number of operations required to make all elements in the array 0. All right, y'all, so that sounds simple enough, but before we get into the solution, let's take a look at these examples just to make sure that we are doing this problem correctly. Now, first thing we want to do is we want to know what the definition of a subarray is. It says a subarray is a contiguous sequence of elements within an array. So all that means is it's an array inside the main array. So if this is the main array, a subarray is just another array inside of that as long as the elements are contiguous, meaning they are already right next to each other. We cannot just delete some elements and keep some. No, the elements have to already be contiguous and already right next to each other. So this right here would be a subarray. We can't just take this 3, 2, and 1. That wouldn't be a subarray. The numbers have to be contiguous, meaning they already line up next to each other. Boom. So now that we know what a subarray is, let's look at example 1. So in example 1, we have our input nums equals an array of integers 0 and 2. The output is 1. Explanation says we can select the subarray 1, 1, which is 2, where the minimum non-negative integer is 2, setting all occurrences of 2 to 0. So in this case, so this just represents the index. So when it says 1, 1, that means index 1. Boom. So index 1 through 1, which is this 2. And so this 2 is a non-negative integer, so we could set it to 0, right? It says we can set all occurrences of the minimum non-negative integer in that subarray to 0. So in this case, there's only one integer and we can set it to 0. And after we set this to 0, then the whole array will be 0 because index 0 is already a 0. So all we need to do is set index 1 to 0. That's what this is saying, 1 through 1. And this might not make sense just yet because it's a little confusing. So let's take a look at example 2, where hopefully this will make more sense. They give us more integers to work with. So in example 2, we have our input nums equals an array of integers 3, 1, 2, 1. The output is 3. So its explanation says we select subarray 1, 3. So what that means is index 1 through 3. It says which is 1, 2, 1. So this is index 1, this is index 2, this is index 3. So when it says subarray 1 and 3, they're talking about index 1 through 3. So that would be this right here, like it says right here. Then it says where all the non-negative integers is 1. So in this subarray, the minimum, because remember we want the minimum non-negative integer, right? We set that to 0. So in this subarray, the minimum integer or non-negative integer is 1. So we could set both of these ones to 0. Boom. So we get this subarray and we set both ones to 0, and now we're left with this array right here. Well, let me copy and paste it so we could go through it a little better. Boom. So we're selecting this subarray and we're going to set this one to 0, and then we're going to set this one to 0. Boom. Then the next subarray is 2, 2. So that's this 2, right? Similarly to up here where 1, 1 was index 1, 2, 2 just means index 2 through index 2, which is just index 2. So it says select subarray 2, 2, which is 2, where the minimum non-negative integer is 2, setting all occurrences to 0 results in 3, 0, 0, 0. So next we're going to pick this subarray and we're going to change this to 0. Boom. Then finally, we're going to select the subarray 0, 0, which is index 0 through index 0, which is 3, where the minimum non-negative integer is 3, setting all occurrences of 3 to 0. So now we're going to set this 3 to 0. Boom. Thus, the minimum number of operations required is 3. So it took 3 operations to get this. That's why our output is 3. Now let's take a look at example 3. In example 3, we have our input nums equals an array of integers 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This time it took 4 operations. It says, let me copy and paste this again. Y'all give me a second. Boom, boom. Okay, then it says we select subarray 0, 5, which means index is 0 through 5, which would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So let me see. 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the whole array. We're going to select the whole array, and we're going to turn all the 1s into 0 because 1 is the minimum non-negative integer. It's the smallest integer in here, so we're going to change all the 1s to 0. So after we do that, we get 0, 0, and 0, and then we're left with this right here. Boom. Then it says we're going to select subarray 1, 1, which is index 1, which is 2, and we're going to set that to 0. So boom, we're going to come here, set this to 0. Boom. Because we can't just do this subarray like this because 0 is the smallest number, right? So we wouldn't be able to touch 2. That's why we have to do each 2 by itself, because if we try to include it in a subarray, then it would no longer be the smallest element. So then next we're going to do subarray 3, 3, which is 2 again. So that's index 3. So we're going to change this 2 to a 0. And then finally, we're going to do index 5, which is 2. We're going to change this to 0 as well. And in total, that took a total of 4 operations for us to make the whole array 0. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. And now that we understand the question, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution. Solution is not that difficult at all. So first, we're going to use a stack to keep track of the increasing sequence values. So we're going to declare a variable called stack. We'll say colon. It's going to be an array of integers. And we're going to initialize it with a blank array like this. Now we need a counter to keep track of how many operations are needed. So we're going to declare a variable called result. Set that equal to 0. And now we need to iterate through each number in the input array. So we're going to say for num in nums. We're going to open up the brackets. And while the least number in the stack is greater than the current number, we're going to remove elements from the stack to maintain a non-decreasing sequence. So we're going to say while stack dot last question mark is greater than 0. We're going to open up the brackets. Or excuse me, question mark 0 is greater than num. We're going to open up the brackets, and we're going to say stack dot remove last and put the parentheses. Boom. Now we're going to skip the zeros as they don't contribute to any operations. So we can come underneath this while. Still inside the for loop, we're going to say guard num exclamation point equals 0. So guard num does not equal 0. Else we can open up the brackets and we could just return, or sorry, not return, to say continue. Boom. And if the stack is empty or the current number is greater than the last one in the stack, we treat this as a new operation and push it onto the stack. So we're going to come underneath this and we're going to say if stack dot last question mark 0 is less than num, then we're going to open up the bracket and we're going to say result plus equals 1. Come underneath that, we're going to say stack dot append, open up the parentheses and pass in num. Then finally, we're going to return the total number of operations counted by coming right here and saying return result. Y'all, just like that. So let's go ahead and give it a run. Make sure it runs correctly before we submit it. Let's see. It's accepted. So let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it's still accepted after we submit it. And look at that, y'all. 26 milliseconds beats 100% of users. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to see. Excuse me, y'all. That's what I like to see. So with that being said, y'all, I hope y'all learned something today. And I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.